Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Neumann from the JADE University of Applied Sciences in Germany, and I would like to present to you the results of the German case study. Even before the COVID-19 pandemic, Germany ranked in the middle of the European field in terms of telework or home office penetration. In 2019, Eurostat data show a share of less than 10% for dependent employees who worked from home occasionally or regularly. After the start of the pandemic, the German Federal Statistical Office shows a share of 21% for 2021, a share of 25% for 2021 and a value of 24% for 2022 of workers using home office. This means that the use of home office in 2022 is twice as high as it was in 2018. At the same time, empirical studies make it clear that the full potential for home office is far from being exploited. The Cologne Institute for Economic Research worked out what the reasons are for the reluctant use of home office. A considerable 20.4% of employees would like to work from home, but are not allowed to. To answer the research questions of the project, board members, level 1 managers, works council members, and employees without managerial responsibility of the W&W group were interviewed about the effects of teleworking, mobile work, and home office, and about the role of social dialogue and labor relations on working conditions. The WW group is a financial services group. It was formed in 1999 from the merger of the companies Wüstenrot and Württembergische. The core of its business activities is provision for the future. The main business areas are housing and insurance. 2 business segments, 8 brands, and 16 companies are now part of the W&W group. The group has around 6 million customers and around 13,000 employees. Due to its structure and number of employees, the W&W Group is a company with equal co-determination. As a result, some works council members are also represented on the supervisory boards of the companies and on the supervisory board of the holding company. The questioning within the framework of the case study was carried out in the form of 1-hour guideline-based interviews. A version of the questionnaire agreed with the international project partners and adapted to German conditions and definitions was used as a guide. The interviewees were selected by an executive of the group. Thus, the interviewees all work for one of the companies of the W&W Group. The interviews took place confidentially and extensive anonymization was assured. All interviews were conducted in June 2023, some via Zoom online meetings and some at the new campus of the group in Kornwestheim. "14 people were interviewed, including 5 managers, namely the CEO and the CIO of the W&W Group, as well as 3 people from the first management level F1. In addition, 5 members of the Works Council, including the chairman of the Group Works Council and his deputy, and 4 employees without any management responsibility were interviewed. Some Works Council members also hold supervisory board positions. For example, The Group Works Council chairman interviewed is also deputy chairman of the supervisory board of W and WAG. Telework, in the German version of a so-called home office, is widespread in the finance and insurance industry. A member of the Works Council of the W&W Group noted in this regard in the interview that in a new company agreement of the competitor company Alliance, the possibility of home office is negotiated with a share of only 2 to 3 presence days per month. This shows how much home office is used in the insurance industry. In this respect, it is not surprising that most of those surveyed believe that they can do at least some of their work from home. Accordingly, almost all of the respondents also make use of the option of working from the home office, at least on a daily basis. One employee said that a lot had happened in the company in this respect in the last 3 years. Home office is already an integral part of the company. Home office, she added, still needs guidelines, but not too many. It must remain flexible. In the German case study of the W&W Group, telework in the German version of home office is regulated by an agreement between management and works council, negotiated at the level of a concern. The W&W Group has adopted a 60-40 rule in this so-called, in German, Konzernbetriebsvereinbarung. 60% of working hours are to be performed in presence work, which means that a maximum of 40% home office is permitted. However, this is not applied equally rigidly in every company of the group. The average use of 2 days of home office among those surveyed indicates that many employees are taking advantage of the home office option up to the permitted upper limit. Managers were asked whether they recommend the use of home office to those they manage. From the responses, it can be seen that no one is opposed to home office. 3 of the 5 respondents answered the question with a yes. The other 2 managers said it depended on the specific case or that it was only recommended within limits. The skepticism about pure 100% home office is also shared among the workforce. One employee without management responsibility noted that the 60-40 rule is a good guideline, but it should be flexible and not set in stone. In any case, however, home office should be combined with presence shares in the company, he said. Home office influences employee productivity in the German case study according to the respondents, but the extent of the influence is not significant and depends on many influencing factors. It is obvious that working from home does not always increase or decrease productivity. Some activities are better suited to being performed at home, others less so. This also applies to employees. Some cope better with working at home, others are more productive in the office. The managers see a tendency toward a negative impact on employee productivity. 2 out of 5 management level respondents answered that a negative impact was evident. The other 3 expressed that it depended on the circumstances. One manager noted that home office impacts productivity in both directions, depending on the type of person. Another manager said whether home office impacts productivity depends on the type of leadership and on the defined goals. Works council members and employees view the effect somewhat more favorably, with 4 out of 5 Works council members seeing a more positive effect. However, there's a lack of dialogue, of hallway conversations, and thus of creativity. In this context, one manager said that teleworking or home office would have a negative effect on productivity in the long term. One employee noted that individual productivity per hour was falling, but that this was being compensated for by more and more overtime. Thus, the respondents are all against 100% home office for productivity reasons, but they are also not in favor of complete presence in the office. A certain amount of home office appears to be suitable to at least maintain productivity, with managers tending to want less than 50% home office, while employees and trade unionists tend to favor somewhat more than 50% home office. One of the important questions in connection with working from home is certainly what, in addition to the productivity effects, speaks for and against working from home from the perspective of those affected. There are many possible advantages that can be perceived with home office. In the interviews, a corresponding list was given in which the respondents could differentiate very important and rather important as well as unimportant advantages. The interviewees saw the following advantages in particular as very important: the flexibility of working hours, the time saved due to the elimination of commuting, the elimination of commuting costs, and the improved opportunities for caring for the elderly and children. It is striking that these benefits, which most respondents perceive as very important, all essentially benefit employees. Benefits to the employer in a skills shortage market, for example, can include the employability of people who live farther away, improved recruiting opportunities, and savings on office space. However, these points were by no means seen as very important benefits by all respondents. And in fact, these points are largely omitted in the W&W group. On the one hand, this is due to the new campus in Kornwestheim, which has just been built and is owned by the group, which means that a reduction in office space is not currently considered possible. On the other hand, the presence quota of 60% of working hours means that working from a greater geographical distance is not possible due to the mandatory 3 days in the week of on-site work, and relocation to the region is almost unavoidable. This prevents a possible recruitment advantage. The possible disadvantages were also listed. One employee stated in the interview that home office has no disadvantages unless it takes place 2 weeks at a time. One manager noted that rigid quotas for home office were not conducive and that the quotas should only be guidelines for the proportion of home office that is determined by the respective supervisor. Flexibility is, after all, the actual advantage of home office, and this must therefore be maintained. Any conflicts should be resolved through communication. One Works Council member said that employees develop a kind of habitual right to do their leisure activities during the working hours. It is noticeable that there's a tendency in the study for the Works Council to favor a higher proportion of home office than management. Employees also view a higher proportion of home office more positively than managers. This is in line with the discussion in Germany as a whole. The German Trade Union Confederation and its member unions are calling for the introduction of a right to self-determined mobile work, including home office, for all employees, which should be developed through collective agreements and co-determination in companies and administrations by means of a company or service agreement. On the one hand, this may be due to the fact that productivity in the home office is also perceived differently, but on the other hand, it certainly also has to do with the unequal distribution of the advantages and disadvantages of home office. In essence, almost all respondents agree that physical presence is needed in the office. A corresponding question was answered in the affirmative by 12 out of 13 respondents. On this question, the interviewees noted a number of things. Physical presence, one manager explained, was important because of the corporate culture. One manager noted that the status quo had changed. The workplace is now the living room at home rather than the clandestine plant. Unfortunately, he said, the bond within the corporate culture is no longer there. Instead of communicating properly, something like email tossing is played. He also said that a lot of home office interferes with the training process because there's no one on site to answer any questions that may arise. Another manager stated that without a physical presence, the company would be anonymous. Under such circumstances, employees would not care who they worked for. Employees would then no longer have any connection to the company. Not only is the corporate culture jeopardized by increased use of home office, but conflicts within the workforce can also increase. Almost all respondents agree that unequal treatment of employees, some are allowed to work from home, others are not, has a negative impact on the working environment. It creates bad blood in the workforce. Complaints are likely. As already seen, the effects on employee productivity are unclear. However, further research questions need to be answered briefly. In regard to research question 2, teleworking seems to make it rather difficult to measure productivity. However, new measures or indicators for measurement have not been introduced in the W and W group so far. For research question 3, the statement of the stakeholders on this research question is different. From the point of view of managers and works councils, the physical distance to the trade union is partly already an obstacle for the work of the trade unions. From the perspective of the employees, however, it is not seen as an obstacle. This could be due to the fact that trade union members tend to see problems in recruiting new members, while employees, workers, tend to focus on the support of works councils when problems arise. For research question 4, it can be said that the specific agreements at group level are overall perceived as adequate to regulate the issues around home office. In regard to research question 5, collective agreements are perceived by the respondents on the German case study as a suitable framework and thus as a great help. However, they should only regulate the rough framework conditions. All details should be determined at the company level. This also applies to the assumption of costs arising from home office. In the opinion of the interviewees, the government also needs to take action. The Working Hours Act, in particular, restricts employees too much. Some other government regulations should also be revised as home office expands. For research question 6, the statement that constant accessibility is expected in the home office, which has a negative effect on those affected, is denied in unison by all respondents. All for the right to digital disconnection is not guaranteed for all. Availability is rather rarely used or does not pose a problem from the point of view of those concerned. For research question 7, gender does not influence the decision for or against home office in the W and W group, according to the statements of most respondents. In regard to research question 8, all respondents in the German case study agree that an increased share of home office will not lead to a gender gap in their company. The advantages of home office are also seen more among women. For research question 9, respondents agreed that home office improves work-life balance by gaining flexibility. For research question 10, all respondents in the German case study believe that the lack of contact with other colleagues can cause feelings of loneliness and isolation. Whether the lack of contact leads to increased stress, on the other hand, is disputed. However, almost all respondents consider psychological problems due to the lack of contact to be possible. The question of whether home office can lead to physical problems again splits the opinion of the respondents. In regard to research question 11, all respondents stated that the use of home office is not affected by any lack of digital skills. All respondents have the relevant skills and overall do not see this as an obstacle to working from home. So far, these are the results of the German case study. Thank you for your attention. Do you have any questions? No questions? So we can go on
Thank you very much.
to the next part and panel.